Okay.
Okay. I'm very pleased to welcome Melissa Wiringi, our next guest to our, how to say, coaching and consulting business growth community podcast. And very happy to have you on board, Melissa. We prepared for a long time to make this meeting, and I'm very excited to see you today here. Let me introduce you with few words. Melissa is an inspirational speaker, mind coach, and author of her book, Domestic Violence on Ice. And I'm happy to introduce you and to give you the possibility to present yourself, present your story, and present how you can bring all this, all your stuff and everything that you can help people, because after all, our community is mostly dedicated for coaches and consultants, people who can bring their unique expertise to the public and help in their own unique way. After all, there are no two coaches in the world that are the same. Everybody has their unique abilities. And yes, I'm very happy to have you here, Melissa.
Welcome. Thank you.
And tell me something about yourself and
Okay, well, for those who don't know me, I'm Melissa. I'm first and foremost an author. I'm actually just about finished my second book, which is called Start With I. My journey is about 10 years ago, or just actually 9 years ago, just about to the day, I became a victim of domestic violence, where the father of my children actually became addicted to drugs. I went through a pretty low part in my life. It was during my second pregnancy, and I pretty much lost hope. Like, I lost all of my dreams. I didn't know who I was. I had to basically start from scratch again. So when I came out of that, part of putting my life back together was writing out what it was I wanted to achieve in my life. And what was amazing about that was the transformation that happened. So I just started writing down ideas. Jack Canfield provided this idea of 101 lifelong goals. If you haven't heard of it, it's in The Key to Living the Law of Attraction. And I started doing that. And you know what? I really struggled. I was struggling to get down 5 or 10 ideas about what I wanted from my life. And then when I was writing them down, I was writing really easy things. Now, as I pushed myself over about 3 months, I started to get a few more. I think I only got about 50 or 60 at the time, but I actually started to dream bigger and bigger. And that was what was great. And I think that's probably a big part of who I am now, is I don't do small at all. Yeah. I'm not cut out to do small. And so if I'm going to work with people now, I won't work with people that are only doing small, because I can't do small. I can't think small. And the people that I've coached in the past, I'll be like, oh, I can see the future Oprah you, or the future Tony Robbins you, or the future Richard Branson you. And sometimes they can't see that. So I can only really work with people who are thinking in that thinking big. And that's how I think. My thought on thinking big is what I can achieve. So I have some fun money mindset issues of my own, which I'm working through. If you don't know, I was born into a family where my dad had like 3 businesses that were majorly huge by the time I was even born. So I was born into money, but in saying that, my parents and my family life was quite cold, disjointed. Nobody really talked. So I didn't grow up with a lot of emotional stuff. And so my association was money equals unhappiness. And then when I went through all my bad stuff, I ended up living in this beautiful beach house, which was really, really old, but I had a view of the ocean. And I was so poor financially, but rich inside. And so my brain then went, no money, happy. And so I'm still working on that. But in saying that, life is great, and I've got many, many big things that I'm working on. I'm part of a charity here, and I'm building a couple of different businesses at the same time. So, hey.
I love this thing you say that thinking big is something that elevates our level of business very, very further, because this is probably one of the most difficult thing that coaches struggle. They start small. They think that if they didn't achieve a given level of success in their coaching, they should decrease their expectations for their clients. But this is totally wrong, because we have to search for clients that already are on the path to their bigger goals, and helping them elevate both the clients and ourselves as well. So this is something very important. Never give up on big dreams.
Exactly. And it's really interesting. I've worked with at least 4 coaches over my time, and they all tell me the same thing. I've got to start small, and small doesn't work for everybody. So I think it's part of that is take it what you feel. Don't go off what somebody else says you can do, because what I let those coaches do for a time was put me into their self-limiting beliefs. And one thing that is a huge dream, here we go, first time on the internet for me really saying it out loud, is I am working on a not-for-profit organisation, and I want to bring more peace. And so my way of bringing peace with being an author and a speaker is to bring together a selection of speakers that I've met over time who speak about stories, usually overcoming some kind of big challenge or adversity, and then changing your outlook. So that's things like positivity, kindness, forgiveness, all these things, gratitude, that help people really reconnect with who they are. And a lot of the coaches that I worked with, they went, well, how are you going to do that? And I was like, I'm going to crowdfund it. Like, it'll happen. I've got heaps of ideas. And they're like, no, I think you need to do X, Y, Z before you can do that. And I'm like, that's your self-limiting belief. Don't try and put me in your box. Like, no, I'm a blinking supernova. You can't like hold me down in this little like tight-mindedness. So, I mean, obviously when you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign, you can't just launch it tomorrow and then hope that people will sponsor. So I'm working on building my community and my network. Actually, I've been doing a lot more of it face-to-face lately than online. But to be honest, don't let if your heart is telling you to do something, if somebody else says, oh no, you have to do this, 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 and this, and this, and this first, come talk to me. I'll tell you why not. Because it's, sometimes they just,
I also very early.
Yeah, we're all put on this earth for different reasons.
We shouldn't listen to the other people's, because they're talking only from their perspective. This is not ourselves. This is not something that we should believe in their beliefs. We should do. When I was a PhD student, I have a lot of such moments when my supervisor told me, you should do this, this, and this. But I didn't want to do this. I want to do other experiments, other things. And only then I discovered that it's very fulfilling and very productive in first place when you follow only your heart, your mind, and the reasons that are coming from your inner voice.
Yes, it's so important. And I think people, get so caught up sometimes, especially in coaching world, you get caught up in, what other people have done to get their success. But what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for the other person. Not all the time. I mean, some people can do the cookie cutter thing and it will work for them. But I think for me personally, I have had to just throw all of the rules out the window and just do my own thing. And that's quite a liberating feeling, knowing that I'm just doing what I want to do and what I feel called to do. And I think there sometimes isn't enough put on that. So I want to kind of like diverge a little bit off this, but because there was a question that you tagged me in which I haven't answered, and it was talking about the limitations for the 7 figures and above businesses. And what I think is part of it is there is quite a big fear, but as well there's that vision. People haven't envisioned what that business looks like as a multi 7 figure. Don't just go for the 1 million, because that's going to burn you out. Like if you're only looking at your business like a one-man show 7 figure business, you're going to be really tired.
This is not
so if you start looking at it like, okay, start looking at businesses like Mind Valley, or I don't know, I love Richard Branson's businesses because they're fun.
We
but
all
if you look at a real big business,
was one of the first I read about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and that's it. Start thinking like that, and map out. If you start drawing out what your business looks like as a 7 figure, I would say like a $5 to $10 million business, then the law of attraction says that it's going to start happening. And then when you start burning out, you go, what?
One thing that I recently realized is that most of the time success comes not from thinking about the money, about the growth of the business, but thinking about how we can provide better, more unique value to the customers, to the people. And when we start to imagine what our business will look like from a mind perspective, from its uniqueness, and not thinking that much about how the money actually will come, that's the time that the traction starts to happen, and the money always comes when we have something unique to present to the people.
So, I agree.
Yeah,
it finds a way to you. It absolutely does. And that's it. It's like sometimes you've got this really great idea, but you're too scared to write it down or actually think about it, because it's like, well, how on earth is that ever going to happen? Don't get me wrong, I've had plenty of those dreams, but it's having the courage to just dream it and go forth. And if your heart really says that, yeah, this is for you, go do it. Because I think, for me, there's been a lot of those limiting moments where I've gone, oh, like, how can I do that? And I've let other people stop me. Again, it's like, come back to what it is that you're meant to do. And you know what you're meant to do. Like, if you really dig deep, you can figure it out. Like, you'll know what it is that you're really meant to do. And it's going to work for you. And it might not have worked for other people, but that's okay. Like, I just think you have to trust in yourself. And sometimes that's a bit scary because you're doing something a little bit different. And it's just go in and just do it anyway. Like, you've got nothing to lose. And at the end of the day, if you don't give it a go, you're going to spend the rest of your life wondering, like, oh, what if I tried that? Like, exactly. What if? And you'd rather not live your life, or I'd rather not live my life thinking, what if?
I would like to ask you exactly in this direction. How did you came up with your belief that you are capable of doing great things? Actually, this is not something that probably happened overnight. You start from very difficult situation in life. Probably all of us have, but you especially have very difficult situation with small children, and to do this care all alone at the beginning. How did you transition your mind in such a difficult situations to believe in yourself and to be able to transform your life to the place you are right now?
That's such a good question. I think that's probably a question that a lot of people think, and I don't think to answer it very well. But it kind of it happened in little evolution. So the first part was when I came out of all of that stuff, my head was a mess. Like, it was chaos. I was really, really unhappy. And growing up in quite a serious, like, cold home, that's how I kind of describe it. Not to say that I don't love my parents. I absolutely do now. Like, I've got over my little childhood issues. But when I came out of that and I had my babies, and I was so scared. Like, I was like, I don't want to be a terrible mother to them. You know, I want to be a really good mum. So my motivation was actually to find happiness. So by doing that, I found the law of attraction, and I also was reading the Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. And that was my first little turn to evolution to, I guess, change me. I became a much happier, much more grateful person. I started to see all the beautiful things that were in my life and actually started to feel really rich inside. And so that was the first big turn. And then in that moment, so it was in the first 18 months that I moved from my home I moved 6 hours away to like one of the most spectacular places I've ever lived. And it was heaven on earth. And that was when I actually started writing my book.
Where
now that was
this
6
place?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful town, Bay of Islands, New Zealand. And I had a view out of my window over the bay. And
Probably you didn't know, but New Zealand is exactly the opposite place on earth from Bulgaria. The
you'll have to go
closest
check
part
it
is
out.
to the center of the earth.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty beautiful place. And that was where the book started. It took me 6 years from starting to write that book to actually publishing it. And
Whoa.
part of that was that mindset stuff. I wrote it and then I wrote it again and I wrote it again and then I put it away and then I pulled it out and wrote a little bit more. And a big thing, a big thing that stopped me was fear of what other people would say. Because when I wrote that book, I had to put everything in it and I couldn't leave stuff out just because it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't PC. It was really like I put some pretty intense stuff in there about my life. And it wasn't even, it was before the father of my children, some of the most like hardest, do I write this, do I not? If I do, what's going to happen? Like it was scary as anything, writing it and thinking, what is everyone going to think? Like they're going to read this book and go, oh my gosh. But the reality was, what I've learned since then was it doesn't actually matter what anyone else thinks about me. All that matters is what I think about me. And that was a picture of who I was 10 years ago. So it doesn't really, it's not me now.
And probably it was a liberating experience to share all your thoughts about your previous life. And actually this way, that you help many other people that are in very similar situations.
Yeah, and that's where the power comes from, I think. Once I published that book, it was like, oh my God, shit, I can do anything. Like all of a sudden, once I published it, it was like this realization, like, why have I been holding myself back for so long? Why did I take so long to write this damn book? Like, what was it that was holding me back? And once I cut that, because that was like my biggest fear, once I released that, it was like, oh, hold on, there's actually nothing holding me back. So that was a really important step for me to really go, okay, like I can do what it wants and what I want. And I think everyone who sees me now, and it's 10 years it's taken me to get to here, and I've only spent the last probably 18 months solidly working on my business, book and public image. So I'm still growing. I think I'm still in my baby stages of who I'm going to become, but I've chosen who I want to become, and I've started to model my life on the people that
already
inspire
did your first steps, and every second step is easier and easier than the first one.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not to say I don't still get scared, because I wouldn't be human if I didn't still get scared. But the thing is, I think I see those fear spots and I go, okay, like, I shrug at it. I'm like, okay, well, it's not really worth it. So we'll just keep going forward, or I'll pause for a month and then just go forward again. Like it's not enough to ever stop me now. And I've got my traction.
Experiment.
Yeah, that's right. Life is, and
it's worse can happen from experimenting in our business.
That's right. And I mean, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? I could never be as unhappy and sad and scared as what I was when I left with those kids. So that's my power to me, that, even at that darkest moment, I still had something, and that was it. It was like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Well, if all of my dreams and everything turned to custard and I was left bankrupt or something ridiculous like that, it still wouldn't matter, because I still got an amazing life. Yeah. And that's it. It's just have the courage to go forward and kill your dreams. And if that means you have to hire someone to help you, then go hire whoever it is that works for you, because we have a lot of coaches out there. I think the hardest thing about the brand coach, something that I'm not really that comfortable with anymore, is there are so many coaches out there that play on people's fears and insecurities.
Yeah.
And then they kind of like go, oh, well, you know, you have to just have the courage to spend money. And I don't like pushy coaches.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of these coaches because they see this is the easiest way
To make money.
to make money and not attract clients, but this is not the best way to attract the best clients. They make more money, but they make less impact in the lives of the people that they attracted. So probably this will change in future, and we are here to start making the difference in the world of coaching. And I really see that you are on the same realizations that everything starts from happiness. So our emotional level of happiness is something that elevates ourselves in all perspectives of life, including business. So
yes, I agree on that wholeheartedly. Like, I think if you haven't got your emotional state and happiness and grateful space, it's really hard to find that success, because nothing you do will be fulfilling. I think if you're trying to find happiness through your business success and through money, you're never going to find it. Like my dad right now, he's on to, I don't know, business number 10, whatever. And there's still that feeling of like he's never going to stop because there's never quite enough. And it's like, dude, you've got a beachside supersized house. Like, what is going to be enough? He's got his Russian internet bride. He's got his kids. He's got, you know, so much, but it's still, you still get that feel like there's not enough. And that's it. When you're constantly feeling like you have to grab, get more to make you happy. It doesn't matter how much you're ever going to have, it's never going to be enough.
Yeah, well, we shouldn't relate these things, happiness and money. Happiness always starts first, and then spreading this happiness to other people. Then the money came, but they are not interrelated.
Exactly.
Happiness always first, and this is some great message.
It is, and I truly believe in that. Like, I truly believe that, because every step of my journey, even though in times when I haven't had any money coming in, I still feel overwhelmingly happy and grateful for the amazing life that I've got. And that means that when the money does come in, my gratitude just increases. It's not like, oh, okay, like, so now where's the next $1 million coming from? It's all like step by step by step, just slowly growing it and not making the money focus.
Can you tell us something more? How, after you publish your first book, after you realize that you have this capability of helping people, how the next steps proceed further? How you grow your new family? How you start being a trainer, public speaker? Very interesting. How
it all kind of snowballed, and then I burned out. So I published the book, and that was about pretty much a year ago. And then it was shortly after that I got into the public speaking thing as well. And I was coaching, and my baby was still waking up. I've also got a 2-year-old. He's actually just
I think I remember this time.
Yeah, and I honestly, I burnt out. I was so tired. I couldn't coach. I was too tired. So what I did was I put everything on hold, like I paused, and I kept the clients that I had, and everything else I just let go. I wasn't chasing anyone. I was just doing my thing, and that pretty much lasted until about the middle of this year. And then I think in that time I changed a lot. Like, I started out solely with, I wanted to coach. You know, I think when you take on that role coach, and people have that expectation that you have some kind of background, and I wanted to do business, but I hadn't started a successful business. And so I went into business information systems because I was expert in that, but that was so boring. So what I did was I stepped away from that, and I came back into my mindset space, because like, that's easy for me. Actually, it's too easy for me. It's really hard to explain to people, but with that, now that I've grown stronger, I'm actually kind of going back into like business strategy and future business planning. So I've done some work with a trial client, and I'm just finishing up with her. So once I've got her case study there, that's going to be really fun, because it's basically moving her from her 6-figure business into like an easy 7-figure business. And that's been heaps of fun working with her on that, because she's already doing quite well. So once I finish that case study, that'll be really cool. And that's more my passion. Because I grew up in big businesses, that was all I ever knew. And so everyone kept saying, start small, Melissa. And I'm like, I don't know how to do a one-man show. Like, I need people. And even my husband says to me, you need a team. I'm like, yes, I need a team. And at the moment I've got an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and they're my team, and they don't really help me get anything done. So
you can include them in your
and that's it. You know, some people have come from a family where they've got mum and dad who have always had full-time jobs, or mum was stay-at-home mum and dad would go and do the work, or vice versa. And so for them starting a business, yes, a one-man show is a thing, and they get that off the ground, and I admire those people so much. I follow a few of them, and I'm like, wow, I don't know how you've done that. And whereas with me, like, I grew up, and I remember being like a small kid going into my dad's workshop, and there were already 40 people working for him, and he had heaps of machinery. And I've just never seen a one-man show. I just don't know how a one-man show works. So for me, people might struggle going from the one-man show to the big organization, and that's where I can help. But whereas before I was like me trying to squash my head into a one-man show, you can't do it backwards. Like, why would you?
Issue that a lot of entrepreneurs that achieve some level of success, and they hit a wall and can't overcome, exactly because they don't know how to scale with making a team, moving all these things around, delegating things, and this is something.
And that's so important. That's so important. If that's one thing you can learn, is just like how to. That's something my dad does really poorly, is delegating. And it was something that as a kid I wanted to spend time with my dad. So I'd be like, Dad, why don't you train people to do this stuff, and then you can stay at home with us? And it was all like, no, people will steal my ideas. It's like,
yeah, and actually, despite how strange it is, it's mostly mindset work. It's not something else. It's just changing your mind, how to approach people and how to attract teammates. And in this world, when everything's digital, you can grow your team from wherever you want in the world. And
that's right.
Can still be the best team in the world.
That's absolutely right.
In one place. So you are growing in this direction, and how your public speaking is related to your business. Are you trying somehow to use your speaking as a branding strategy to grow your business? Because when I see your presence online, I see that you are mostly mindset coach, somebody who can help others with all kinds of mind issues, and this is your visit card, your way the world perceive you.
Absolutely. So, and that was always the missing. When I did the book and I had the original business coaching thing, it just wasn't connecting. So that was why I went more the mindset way. And so with the public speaking, I'm actually speaking this week on Thursday. I'm quite looking forward to it. It's just, I think, giving me a little bit more authority, a little bit more strength, standing up on a stage. I love it. And that's the influence side of it. For me, with what I want to do with my bigger businesses that are outside of coaching, it is in that influencing scene. It is having not necessarily myself on the stage, but me as like the ringleader of a stage of people that stand on there and inspire people and teach them new messages that we're not taught necessarily in school. Well, back when our generation went to school, it wasn't like, I don't know about you, but we would taught anything about forgiveness and gratitude at school. And so it's bringing those messages forward. And so that's a huge part of what I'm wanting to do over the next 12 to 18 months. And that's a huge, big focus for me. And the coaching thing is more like a little side piece, because like long term, I don't see myself staying solely as the coach. I believe more in I'm going to do greater impact through speaking and hosting other speakers and bringing bigger messages to the world. To me, putting myself in a coaching box is too limiting for me. It's not, I don't have time for those kind of walls. And I don't see myself as a really great one-to-one person as well. Like I can really only cope with one or two people at a time to coach, simply because I've got 3 kids and I actually homeschool as well. So coaching for me, I want to be a huge supporter for whoever I work with. And when I work with someone, I want to be able to give them that attention. So like if they're having a freak out in the middle of the week, I need to be able to jump on the phone and call them, and I can't do that if I've got like 5 clients. So for me, I think coaching, like I'll only ever coach 1 or 2 people at a time.
I also realized the power of growing communities and inviting many other people. I see a lot of example of people who started from the ground and then they presented in front of the world such speaking events and conferences. They organize themselves online, and these events make huge impact. And so if you move this process, it's initially it's a lot of work, but actually this can give much bigger impact than working on your own. And if you have this feeling that you have the capacity to organize people, this is something you should definitely.
Oh, I definitely can't organize people, but I'll find people that can.
Yeah, this is
but, I mean, and that's just it. It's about it's about that big speaking impact. And for me, I can't do that coaching one-on-one. Like I can only really, I can only look after 6 to 8 people a year on a one-to-one basis. But if I go, and group coaching isn't that appealing to me. Like, then I have to be available at a certain time every week, and then if my baby's screaming for half of that, that's not that effective. So for me, I think I would love to do this. I am going to do this big speaking platform, and I would love to grow it out. I envision it being a platform similar to something like A-Fest or TED, and it will be beautiful, but it's got its own unique twist because it's me. And it's all of me. And do you know what the funniest thing of that was? When I went through my speaking program, my coach, he's an international speaker. He's been on stages with everyone. And he kept saying, just one thing, Melissa, just one thing. And I'm like, not going to be able to ever put me into a box. I'm not just one thing. And he kept saying, there's got to be one thing, like what's the greatest thing you've ever learned? And I'm like, there's not just one thing. There is plenty of great things that I've learned. And that to me, with my speaking platform, I get to pick out people that are facets of me. And that's my one thing.
We all have this problem with the one thing when we have so much ideas. And I also struggled for a very, very long time to have this one thing that should be moving when I have dozens in my mind.
I get it. Like, I mean, I've kind of got it down to one-ish thing, but the one-ish thing is just so big. I mean, world peace, that's not a simple thing.
Yeah. So what are your next steps in these directions? There will be a lot of work to organize this platform. But,
so I've got a crowdfunding campaign that'll be coming up. I haven't released it yet because I need to get a few more ducks in a row. What I'm trying to do is recruit a few speakers first, and then they will help me to then promote the crowdfunding campaign. And that will also have things on it like you can work with me, or you can do I'll do some weekend experiences with me and stuff like that as as rewards, and that's all ready and waiting just to me to hit the go live button. So once that happens, then I'll set a date. I have to set a date for my first event, and we'll be hopefully flying, fingers crossed. So if you're watching this and you like the idea of talks about things like forgiveness and compassion and gratitude and things like that, if that's your jam, follow me, because once I hit this crowdfunding campaign thing, I would love support. I just want people to share it and, you know, make it
we will do everything in our capabilities in our community to support you, and I would love to see you succeed in this venture and to make a great event. And actually, this is very good strategy to attract all these people who will present themselves in their platform to help you in promoting the event, because this way both of you will benefit, and these people will make much bigger impact of the entire structures you are building.
That's right. Also, and that's what I think. It'll benefit a lot of people, because people will then see the platform, and then if they're going, oh, like, I'm a speaker and I speak about those things, then they're going to jump on, and then they might be the next event, you know. So it's quite a neat thing that it's unique. It'll be a social enterprise type organization where the key thing is I want to be able to make a difference with peace in the world, and non-violence is so important to me. So when I do that, when I think about world peace and non-violence, it all starts with the individual, and that's what my book's about, Start With I, because we have to start with ourselves to make that difference. And so these talks are all about those things, like who we are, what we're thinking, what our hearts are telling us. Like, it's all about who we are. And if we have people that sort of get to know me and they're like, oh, hey, I'm a speaker that talks about something like happiness, gratitude, forgiveness, compassion, these sorts of things, then, you know, it's not like you have to be the super most famous person with 8 books and 100,000 followers to be able to get on my stage. And that's going to be the great thing. It'll grow because there are enough people with great messages like that, and those are the messages that we need in the world to make the difference.
Yeah, we should spread the messages. Doesn't matter if the actual speaker is on their first steps of their journey, or they have multi-million people audiences. Sometimes the greatest messages are just in their infant state, and you can find amazing people that nobody else is seeing.
Yeah, I agree, because I've met so many, and that was what was special about what I want to launch, is when I've watched some of these people speak, I've gone, oh wow, like, they're amazing. And like, if the world could only hear these people, and you know, some of these stories are just like, oh my gosh. And they just make me so grateful for my story, because I'm just like, I love my story. I think it's amazing. I'm so blessed. And when you hear some of these stories, it just blows you away. And knowing all these people that I know, and realizing that there's not really, they don't fit into the conventional professional speaking boxes. It's, okay, like, where can they speak? And I mean, people like us, we want to jump on a TEDx stage, but TEDx, you know, you can't get on that unless you've been like quite big, or you've got something like super, super, super unique. So it's about creating something that's a little bit different, but still really, really important and special. And that's exactly what you said. You've got to find something that's unique and it's making a difference. Yeah.
So this is a great goal, and I wish you all the success in it. And of course, we will do everything we can support you to see this happen. And of course, all
you never know. You might be on my stage. Might get you on.
I will be happy if I can help in this direction. And why not also participate in the event and helping you in all kind of direction. Actually, this is what our business is about, helping
That's right.
coaches, consultants, and people in this kind of professions to overcome this initial stage of one-man show and to spread their message to much wider audience, actually, to
That's right.
explore their businesses. And
And
you
that's
told
that's
that
what it's all about. We all got to work together. If we want to be seven-figure business people, we can't do that as a one-man show. So that's how we do it. We work together as a team. We bring people together, and that's that.
of
Boom.
course, this is
That's
something
amazing.
that really can change everything if all of us that we interact and hang out here can somehow make a kind of team and expand further, because when a lot of people bring their unique expertise in one place,
That's
then
right.
very interesting things can happen. You told that you have another book in your mind. Can you tell something about these plans about writing another book? What it will?
I've already nearly finished it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's taken me about a year, and
Much faster than the first one.
oh yeah, much faster. Isn't
I'm
that
also
funny?
writing a book now, but I'm in this stage that it will never be finished. I have to overcome this first problems of of not capable of making this message done. But
No, you
I
can do
know
it. You can do it.
I
You
know a
can
book can
totally
be
do it.
written
You
in 1
totally
month.
can.
Yeah.
Hey, no, you can do it. It's with the book writing thing, it's more a you have to be committed to it. So I'll tell you a really funny story about the first one. So in about 6 years, I'd written 20,000 words, and I kept thinking in the back of my head, I've nearly got a book. I've nearly got a book. It's almost finished. I'd never actually researched how many words are in a book. And then I decided, okay, I need to get this thing finished. So what happened was I went into this little 30-day book outline program thing, and it was just like a real cheap, like $30 thing just to motivate me. And what I did was, it was the end of December 2015, and I said, I'm going to give myself 1 month to finish this book. I'm going to finish it by the end of January. And then about day 3 or day 5 into this program, it's like, okay, well, now you have to do some research and find out how many words are in the average book that you write. And then I found out the average book that I was writing as nonfiction memoir was about 65,000 words. So I was like, right, so now I have to write 45,000 words, and I've given myself 1 month to do it. Well, I didn't quite finish in the end of January, but I finished in the second week of February.
Yeah.
Because I made myself. It was like there was no, I mean, it was far from perfect by the time I finished. Like, it was 65,000 words, but at least it made sense. It had some kind of order, but I made myself do it. And that was it. It was forcing myself. Like, I made myself write like 1,000, 2,000 words every single day. Didn't matter what they were, they had to be written. And so I did something really similar with this book that I've written this year. I mapped out what the kind of areas were and what I wanted to cover, and I've done that, and now I'm like at the very tail end. I think I've got about 45,000 words down. I may even have 50, but I'm at the end, and I find the end the hard bit, because now I've got so many words and I can't remember what I've already written, and I don't have room to write any new chapters. So I've kind of got to go through and grow out the ones that are a little bit thin, and I struggle with that. So I've been procrastinating a little bit, but it won't take me much longer to finish that. It's very, very near finished. So I've already got a publisher lined up for it, and I've got editors and a cover design coming. So it's all there. It's just got to kick my own butt really again and go do it.
But you see that it's much easier when you have the outline already done.
Do the outline. Do the outline. Start with a beginning, middle, end. And then in each one, break it into like 8 to 10 chapters or whatever. And then each chapter you have to have a beginning, middle, and end, and you're fine. Just make each chapter readable on its own, and you'll be sweet as.
Yeah, I also followed a course about writing books. Probably you know Chandler Bott is doing amazing work in these directions, but you have to commit first
You have
and
to.
start. I know I'm a good writer, but I never commit enough time to make it happen. Probably the beginning next week, next year probably. For few months, I will have something in place. You told that you have a publisher. You decided to move in the directions of publishing
So
help,
what I'm
not
doing,
self-publishing in Amazon.
it's half half. So I'm
Yeah.
doing what's called collaborative publishing.
Mhm.
And so so the first book I did purely by myself, and I really didn't enjoy the last half of it. So I find the writing is really easy, and I find everything else really hard. I designed my own cover. I put it on Amazon. I formatted it all myself. I tried to figure out like what was the difference between CreateSpace and Gramspark, and it was a nightmare. It was horrible. It got done, but it didn't get done well. So this time round, I decided I still didn't want to go traditional because they take too much of a cut, and I like the fact that I can have all my money. So I found a author program where I'm in it, and they design my cover, and I've got editors, and I've got support, and I can ask a million questions because I've got a coach. And it basically goes through under their publishing label, but I get all the money. They don't take money. So that's nice. I get to get all of the stuff that I don't like done, and I do the easy bit, and I can do that over and over again. So each time I want to publish a book, I just have to pay for the book serial number, the IBSN, and that's it. They look after me for all the stuff that I don't like, and that's really good for me. And I kind of recommend it for anyone starting out in book writing, because he has a option of a 52-week book or a 26-week book, and you just follow the steps. I mean, I like the book writing. I said it's easy. It's everything else: the book marketing, the getting it out, making people buy it, doing promotions. Like that's not my strength at all. So having that support
Yeah,
has been
actually,
really
yeah,
helpful.
this is a great way to outsource this part of the work.
Yeah.
That's
Don't do the
I'm
stuff you don't
not
like.
familiar with it. I perceived books mostly as a channel of your message to be spread, not that much as some kind of source of income, or
No.
it's promoting ourselves and allowing the world to see us. And also the great part is that it's once it's done, it's there forever, and you can like a card you can present anytime you are on stage, or you have an event, you can be presented as the author of these books. And this is
Yeah.
amazing way to allow people to see your message, because sometimes we cannot give our message in a 1 hour talk on it's not possible. When you write it down, people
Yeah.
who really resonate can go deeper and see more and more details of your work.
I
And,
agree. Yeah. And it's an affordable way for people to connect with you. So if you think of like your touch points, that's a really early one, easy way for people to connect with you and understand who you are. And I mean, it's such an easy price level for most people, unless you want to buy my soft cover version, which might cost you a bit because it's not done right. But once I republish it, it should be sweet. But it's a really good way to get people to know who you are, and it's part of that brand building, getting them to really trust you. And for me, like, that was why I had to do this next book, because that first book really stuck me as, okay, she's a survivor of violence, but it was like, that's not all of me. Like, that's just one little teeny tiny part of me, and now I'm so much more than that. So I had to do this next one because otherwise I was just stuck in this little hole of I didn't want to be there.
Yeah,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah, it was.
You are moving forward with your new book, and
Yeah.
when it's published, I'm promising you will be again here to present your new book, and we can speak.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. But trust me, once I finish this next one, I've already got like titles for the next like at least 7, so we're fine. You'll see me a few times on here
You
over
will
the years, I
become
think.
a writing machine.
Yeah, no, it's what I love. So
When you have already two books. And
yeah.
are you thinking of growing your tribe to other channels like email newsletters, YouTube channels, something else? You're on
So
Facebook, you're on
I
Instagram. Do you
I
think about
started a YouTube.
it?
I started a YouTube and I kind of get into some kind of routine with it and then I drop off. I'm not very consistent. I'm terrible at sending out monthly newsletters. I try, but I forget. Not consistent at all. I did build some automation, but then I just didn't really like it. It wasn't me. I'm not an automatic person. Yeah, no, I'm not really winning at the social media and online games. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, with the YouTube thing, it was really funny. My daughter started a YouTube. So I started my YouTube last year, at the end of the year. My daughter started her YouTube this year, only like a few months ago. She already has more followers than me.
Yeah,
but I have to keep building it. It needs to be built.
We
and
are
it will
also
build.
still planning to start this YouTube channel, and probably our talk today will be presented there as well. And I believe in YouTube. It's not easy at the beginning because the traction there is very slow. You need some kind of snowball effect when it will be visible, but once it's have the core visibility, then it's become much easier. That's what I know from friends, from other influencers, and it's definitely something that we should explore.
I think so too. I think, well, you know what? I think with the platform that I'm building, that'll be a huge center point for it. So it will be a lot more fun. I'll quite enjoy building that YouTube because it'll have so many awesome stories on it. It'll be great. Maybe something for you to think about with this interview process that you've got, because if you put all your really interesting interviews up, it might be really interesting for people.
Yeah, of course, and I definitely know that someday this kind of interviews will be done on a much bigger level when all of you guys that I have in our circle elevate themselves. We will make something like you are doing right now, and we will have conferences and other things. Probably I'm doing a bit slower in these directions first, but initially
you're probably doing it more the right way. I think I'm just doing it all the really spaghetti way.
I want to learn how to communicate with all of you, to know you better, to hang out with you, and to present all your thoughts freely to the world, and allow other people to see you. And later on we will have some great events. This is definitely for sure. But
yeah, I think you'll do really well with it because you've brought together people who want to achieve the same sort of outcomes. So it will work.
I'm searching like-minded people, and I'm finding them, and we are doing great talks, and I'm sure we will continue to succeed in these directions. Our next step is our first beta school of teachers, of people who want to scale, and you are also invited to this this
Yes.
experience. It will happen very
wait.
soon, and I'm sure it will be some great experience. That my first goal is not to have the most people in it, but to have the right people and to have great successes for all of them. This
That's
is
right.
what I want. I want, when we finish this school, to have everybody there to have fantastic successes that will bring amazing testimonials, and this will bring the tractions for the years to come. But initially, I'm selecting the right people with the
No, you
more
have to do
energy.
that.
Yeah.
Have to do that. You have to do that. If you do that well at the start, I mean, that's it, isn't it? If you have those successes at the start, then that's such a good motivator for other people to want to join it. And you're right, it has to be the right people, because if you're trying to do that en masse early on.
Yeah, we are all learning by experience. It's not gonna happen without mistakes here or there. But when the strategic look is in the future, when we see where we should be, then all the small steps, even if not done perfectly, are moving us forward and forward. And I'm very happy to see you are also strategic thinker, and you have great vision. It's
Yeah, that's
not
actually, do you
worth
know
to
what?
do business if we don't have a great
You
vision.
know what? That's so funny that you say that, because I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's the Gallup-Clifton strengths.
Not sure, but it will
Well,
be
I'll
interesting.
have to send it to you, but they have like different strengths categories, and you can do it. It's a test. It's a strategic, like a strengths finder, and then you can analyze what your strengths are. And mine's really weird that all of my 5 top ones are all strategic.
Yeah.
That's really unusual. It's really strange. Most people have a bit of a variety, and I'm like, so what I find is that's why I need people in my team, because I just think like that, but I don't necessarily take a lot of action. And when I take action, it's
never did this kind of test, but I believe the result will be something similar.
Yeah, and I look very future. I look forward too far. I can see Melissa in 2050, and it's like, wow, that's so awesome, and no idea how.
People like us have the biggest problems how to connect this vision in far future with the present. So we have to work on the steps that will bring us there.
It's just, you got to just keep walking, and it will happen. And I truly believe that. Like, I mean, my journey has been in a lot of ways slower than a lot of people, but then in a lot of ways faster than other people. So you can't compare, because everyone's on their own little journey. And it's like, it's taken me 10 years to get where I am today. And for other people, they might have just started, 3 years ago in their business, and they're doing amazing, but it doesn't really matter. You can't compare because we're all doing our own journey.
It doesn't matter if we
just keep going.
To the next level. It doesn't matter how long it will take us. Probably for some people it takes longer, but they realize a lot of truths in their life that move them in the right directions. Because if you want to scale very quickly, we also promote scaling fast, but actually you don't have to sacrifice your dreams, because your business is the thing you will have for life. And you want to have the type of business that will resonate to your personality. And sometimes it takes longer, but most important,
you got to enjoy the journey.
The most important is to enjoy it and to ensure you resonate perfectly, and not going into, because I did these mistakes in the past. I have been in businesses which I didn't like. For example, my last online business, it took me probably 4 or 5 years to escape from it, because it was not the thing I liked too much, but I was so immersed in these things. I was in the world of investing, trading, and so on. And it was funny, but at one moment I realized
what you're saying there. What you're saying there is so important, and I think that's it. Sometimes people get so caught up in, I'm going to be a coach because that's an easy way to make money, or I'm going to do XYZ because that's going to make money. But what you've said, that's right, because if you don't know yourself, who you are and what's important to you and what you really want to do really, really well, it's probably not going to work that well unless you're just one of these like weird people that everything works. But if you're not passionate about it and you don't love it, it's not going to work. And that's the mindset thing, because
it can bring you some money, but it will never satisfy yourself.
That's so important. Again, start with yourself. That's my whole thing. Start with I. And like Simon Sinek says, start with why. And if you don't know your why, then you need to start with your I.
And this will be your why. This will be your great message, your message for your upcoming event.
Definitely. Definitely, because that's a huge part of it. It was, last year when I was doing my business, I didn't really know what my big why was. It was, I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know my why. And so when I started watching all these great TED Talks and I found that one, I was like, hold on, start with why. And then it's like, write down everything and make big mind map, and I still couldn't figure it out. So I actually went back and I've done a lot of inner work again, and now I know, I know what I want to do, and I know why I want to spread. I want to change the world, and I want to do it really amazing. But the only way I can do that is with myself. And so knowing that, I have to spread that to the world. So
I know such example of entrepreneurs who spend many months, years thinking about what's inside them, and only then start their business. I know probably it's allegorical, not real, but there was a monk, Buddhist monk in Tibet, who for 10 years didn't speak a word, only it was speechless for entire 10 years and only thinking of his inner voice, and then go out, do multi-million-dollar business. And for other people, this came from nowhere, but actually he mastered this game of inner voice. And we should always have some time for ourselves and to make self-realization, and not fall in the trap of the busy world where we always fill our calendar with tasks Monday, Friday. So I see you are realizing this amazing truth your own way, and you should definitely bring them to the public, not only to yourself, but to the people you will attract in your future business. So thank you very much, Melissa. I'm very happy we did finally this interview, and very happy to see that you are such a big thinker and are planning strategically some amazing things in the future. Definitely we will keep in touch, and we will allow you to present your amazing things regularly. And
it'll be great. I'll give everyone the chance to have their own little go on a stage, and away we go. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and that's what it's meant to be, fun, right?
Most of all, we should have fun, and allow other people also to enjoy what we are doing. And most of all, I'm wishing you a great family life, and to find the perfect balance that you will both
fingers crossed.
To enjoy both business and home. This is the dream for many people today, because a lot of people no longer want to be dependent of 9-to-5 jobs. This is a huge transformations that will happen in the next 10 years. Probably half of the world population will abandon this kind of jobs, and this will change many things. People have to to be prepared for this evolution.
I think it's so exciting. It's so fun to be doing what we're doing right now. I think it's great. We're lucky. We're so lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa,
Okay.
and see you very soon. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Well, I'll say good night from Australia and have a great day.
Yeah. Have a good night. Bye bye.
All right. Bye.